My name is Olivia, and I've always believed the world was made for people like me. She began with the kind of confidence that bordered on arrogance. She adjusted the strap of her designer handbag, a limited edition piece that cost more than most people's yearly rent. Some might call me spoiled, others might call me entitled, but I call it being ambitious. After all, why settle for less when you can have it all? Olivia Montgomery was the only daughter of Edward Montgomery III, a real estate tycoon whose name adorned half the skyscrapers in the city, and Lillian Montgomery, a former supermodel turned philanthropist. Olivia had grown up in the lap of luxury, surrounded by wealth so immense it could make the impossible seem mundane. From her childhood, Olivia was groomed to believe she was exceptional. She attended elite private schools, where her classmates were the children of senators and tech moguls. She spent summers in the Hamptons, winters in Aspen, and vacations on private yachts sailing through the Mediterranean. Her social media was a carefully curated gallery of her opulent life: red carpet events, champagne brunches, and exclusive parties where the guest list was a who's who of high society. At 28, Olivia ran her own fashion line, Opulence by Olivia. It wasn't just a business, it was a statement of who she was: luxurious, bold, and unapologetically extravagant. She claimed to work hard, and in her own way, she did. She managed a team of designers and marketing experts, negotiated deals with international distributors, and oversaw every aspect of her brand. But Olivia's idea of hard work came with first-class flights and five-star accommodations. Her family was as glamorous as her lifestyle. Her father, Edward, was the picture of old money, stoic, commanding, and endlessly strategic. He treated Olivia like his princess, though he often reminded her that their fortune came from generations of diligence and that she had to earn her place in the Montgomery legacy. Her mother, Lillian, was more indulgent, often brushing off Olivia's outbursts with a fond, "That's just Olivia being Olivia." But despite their lavish life, the Montgomery household had its cracks. Edward's business ventures often kept him away, leaving Lillian to host events alone in their sprawling mansion. Olivia's younger brother, Henry, was the family rebel, uninterested in the wealth or expectations that came with the Montgomery name. While Olivia basked in the spotlight, Henry shunned it, preferring his quiet life as a struggling musician. A day in Olivia's world one crisp autumn morning, Olivia stepped into her sleek black town car, her heels clicking on the marble driveway. She had an important meeting at her flagship store to finalize a collaboration with a renowned Italian designer. As the car pulled away, she scrolled through her phone, replying to emails, checking sales reports, and ignoring the incessant calls from her mother. "Everything has to be perfect," she instructed her assistant, Clara, through the phone. "The lighting, the music, the champagne. We're creating an experience, not just selling clothes." Clara, used to Olivia's perfectionism, assured her it was all under control. But Olivia wasn't convinced. Nothing ever felt truly under control unless she was micromanaging every detail. The meeting went as planned, lavish, successful, and filled with praise for Olivia's vision. But as she left the store, her phone buzzed again. It was a text from Henry. "Need to talk? Can you come to Mom's later?" Olivia frowned. Henry rarely reached out, and when he did, it was usually to borrow money. She debated ignoring him, but decided to humor him. After all, she hadn't seen her family in weeks, and maybe a little sibling drama could spice up her otherwise predictable day. Family matters. When Olivia arrived at her parents' mansion, the atmosphere was tense. Edward was in his study, shouting into his phone about a deal gone wrong. Lillian sat in the sunroom, sipping tea and flipping through a fashion magazine, seemingly oblivious to the storm brewing around her. Henry was pacing the living room, his guitar case leaning against the couch. "What's so urgent?" Olivia asked, tossing her coat onto a chair and plopping down on the velvet sofa. Henry looked at her, his expression a mix of frustration and determination. "I need to borrow money, a lot of it." Olivia rolled her eyes. "What else is new?" "This is serious, Olivia," he snapped. "I'm in trouble." For the first time, Olivia noticed the dark circles under his eyes and the nervous energy radiating off him. Henry explained that he'd made some bad investments, trusting the wrong people, and now he owed more money than he could ever hope to make from his music. "Dad won't help," he said bitterly. "He says I need to learn my lesson. But Olivia, if I don't pay them back—" He trailed off, but the fear in his voice was unmistakable. Choices and consequences. Olivia was torn. On one hand, she resented Henry's recklessness and his constant reliance on the family's wealth to bail him out. On the other hand, he was her brother, and despite their differences, she couldn't ignore his desperation. "Fine," she said finally. "I'll help you. But this is the last time, Henry. You need to start taking responsibility for your life." As she wrote the check, she couldn't shake the feeling that her brother's problems were a reflection of their family's deeper issues. Their father's coldness, their mother's detachment, and Olivia's own obsession with appearances had created a chasm between them all. For the first time, Olivia began to question the life she had always taken for granted. Was her wealth and success really a measure of her worth, or was it just a gilded cage, trapping her in a world of superficiality and isolation? The ripple effect. The next morning, Olivia woke up earlier than usual. She had spent the night tossing and turning, Henry's words echoing in her mind. The usually soothing sound of the city below her penthouse felt grating today, a reminder of the polished, detached world she inhabited. Her schedule was packed, as always. She had meetings with her design team, a photo shoot for her upcoming collection, and an evening charity gala hosted by her mother. Normally, she would breeze through such a day, thriving on the attention and admiration that followed her wherever she went. But today, something felt different. At her office, Olivia sat at the head of the long glass conference table, surrounded by her team. They were presenting the final marketing strategy for her latest collection, but her mind kept drifting. "Olivia!" Clara's voice pulled her back to reality. "What do you think?" She blinked at the slideshow on the screen, a series of glossy, perfectly staged images of models draped in her designs. They were beautiful, of course, but they felt empty. "It's fine," Olivia said, forcing a smile. "Let's move forward." Clara exchanged a glance with another team member, but said nothing. Olivia's sharp instincts, her ability to scrutinize every detail, seemed dulled today. The gala and the mask. By the time she arrived at her mother's charity gala, Olivia had managed to push her unease to the back of her mind. The event was hosted in a grand ballroom with glittering chandeliers, floral arrangements that probably cost as much as a small car, and a guest list that included celebrities, politicians, and CEOs. Olivia entered like she always did, poised, confident, and impeccably dressed. Her mother, Lillian, greeted her with air kisses and introduced her to a group of socialites who fawned over Olivia's success. "You must tell us the secret to your work ethic," one of them gushed. "You make it all look so effortless." Olivia smiled, the kind of practiced smile that didn't reach her eyes. "It's all about passion and discipline," she replied, her voice smooth and rehearsed. But as the evening wore on, the facade began to crack. She watched her mother flit from group to group, charming everyone, but barely acknowledging her children. She saw her father arrive late, his face set in a scowl as he muttered something to his assistant. And she noticed Henry sitting alone at a table, nursing a drink and avoiding eye contact with everyone. When the speeches began, Olivia slipped out onto the balcony, needing a moment to herself. The cool night air was a welcome relief from the stifling atmosphere inside. She leaned against the railing, staring out at the city lights. "You look like you could use a drink." Olivia turned to see a man she didn't recognize, holding out a glass of champagne. He was tall, with an easy smile and a casual elegance that set him apart from the usual crowd. "Thanks," she said, taking the glass. "I didn't catch your name." "Daniel," he said. "And you're Olivia Montgomery. Hard to miss, given how everyone in there is either talking about you or wearing your designs." Olivia laughed softly. "Let me guess. You think I'm just another spoiled rich girl?" Daniel shrugged. "I think you're more than what people see on the surface, but that's just a guess." They talked for a while, their conversation surprisingly genuine. Daniel wasn't part of the usual crowd. He was an architect, passionate about designing sustainable housing. His grounded perspective was a stark contrast to the world Olivia was used to, and for the first time in a long time, she felt like someone was seeing her, not just her image. A new path over the following weeks, Olivia found herself drawn to the ideas Daniel had shared. She started researching sustainability, learning about the environmental impact of the fashion industry. The more she learned, the more she realized how much her brand could do differently. It wasn't an easy transition. When she brought up the idea of introducing sustainable practices to her team, the initial reaction was skepticism. "It's a risk," Clara pointed out. "Our customers expect luxury, not lectures about the environment." "I'm not saying we compromise on luxury," Olivia argued. "I'm saying we redefine it. Luxury doesn't have to mean excess. It can mean responsibility, too." Slowly but surely, Olivia began to implement changes. She partnered with ethical suppliers, introduced eco-friendly packaging, and launched a campaign highlighting the importance of sustainability. The response was mixed at first, but as the message gained traction, Olivia felt a renewed sense of purpose. Rebuilding bridges. Her personal life began to shift as well. Olivia started spending more time with her family, making an effort to understand them rather than judge them. She reached out to Henry, offering to help him manage his finances and even funding a small studio for him to record his music. Their father, Edward, remained distant, but Olivia found herself growing closer to her mother. One evening, as they sat together in the sunroom, Lillian opened up about her struggles. "I always wanted to be more involved," she admitted, "but your father, he had such high expectations. I felt like I couldn't live up to them, so I focused on what I knew: parties, appearances. I guess I passed that on to you." Olivia nodded, understanding for the first time that her mother's seemingly perfect exterior had its own cracks. A new beginning months later, as Olivia stood in the middle of her newly redesigned flagship store, she felt a sense of accomplishment she hadn't felt in years. The store was no longer just a shrine to wealth and opulence. It was a celebration of craftsmanship, sustainability, and creativity. Daniel was there, offering his quiet support, and even Henry had shown up, looking happier and more at ease than she'd seen him in years. For the first time, Olivia felt like she wasn't just living up to her family name. She was creating her own legacy, one that wasn't defined by arrogance or privilege, but by growth, purpose, and the connections she had rebuilt along the way. Finding purpose. As Olivia's reimagined store gained traction, the industry began to take notice. Her shift toward sustainability didn't just resonate with younger, environmentally conscious customers. It also garnered praise from critics who had once dismissed her as a shallow heiress dabbling in fashion. But the journey wasn't without its challenges. Some longtime clients bristled at the changes, accusing Olivia of abandoning the exclusivity they loved. Even some board members grumbled about the higher costs of sustainable materials and the risks involved in redefining the brand. "I've spent my whole life catering to what people expect of me," Olivia told the board during a heated meeting. "This isn't just a business decision, it's a moral one. If we lose a few customers, so be it. I'm building something for the future, not just the next season." Her passion won over most of the skeptics, but Olivia knew it would take time for everyone to come around. The family's shifting dynamics. Meanwhile, Olivia's efforts to mend her family's fractured relationships were slowly bearing fruit. Henry's studio sessions were going well, and his confidence was growing. One evening, he invited Olivia to hear him perform at a small downtown venue. "You're actually really good," she admitted after his set, a teasing smile on her face. Henry laughed. "Coming from you, that's high praise." Their banter felt light, free of the tension that had once defined their interactions. For the first time in years, they felt like siblings again. Her relationship with her mother also deepened. Lillian started joining Olivia at charity events and even helped promote the sustainability campaign. Together, they launched a program to support aspiring designers from underprivileged backgrounds, providing scholarships and mentorship. Edward, however, remained a tough nut to crack. He continued to treat Olivia's efforts as a distraction from the real business of the Montgomery Empire. But Olivia noticed subtle changes in him, an approving nod when he saw her name in a positive news article, a rare smile during family dinners. Daniel's influence. Daniel became an increasingly important presence in Olivia's life. What had started as casual conversations turned into something deeper. He challenged her in ways no one else did, calling out her blind spots while encouraging her growth. One evening, as they walked through the park, Olivia confessed, "Sometimes I feel like I don't deserve this second chance. I've spent so much of my life being, well, selfish." Daniel stopped, turning to face her. "Everyone's allowed to grow, Olivia. What matters is what you do with that growth. And from where I'm standing, you're doing pretty damn well." His words stayed with her, strengthening her resolve. A new legacy. A year after the relaunch of her brand, Olivia stood on the stage of an industry awards ceremony, accepting an award for innovation in sustainable fashion. She looked out at the audience, her parents, Henry, Daniel, and her team, and felt a rush of gratitude. "This award isn't just for me," she said during her speech. "It's for everyone who believed that luxury and responsibility can coexist. It's for the designers, the workers, and the customers who inspire us to do better. And it's a reminder that growth isn't about perfection, it's about progress." The applause was thunderous, but for Olivia, the real victory was knowing she had finally found her purpose. Years later, Olivia found herself walking through the same streets of the city where her journey had truly begun. The towering skyscrapers, bustling crowds, and flashing lights had always felt like extensions of her identity, but today they seemed quieter somehow, less intimidating. She was no longer the brash, entitled girl who believed the world owed her everything. She had become a woman who had earned her place in it, reshaping her life with purpose and intention. Her flagship store now stood as a beacon of change in the heart of the city's luxury district. The windows displayed not just her latest collection, but also stories of the artisans and communities her brand supported. She often visited unannounced, not as a boss, but as a learner, listening to her team and the customers who believed in her vision. Her family, once fragmented, had come together in ways she never thought possible. Edward, though still reserved, had started attending family gatherings more regularly. He even offered Olivia a rare and heartfelt acknowledgement during her birthday celebration. "You've proven me wrong in the best way, Olivia," he had said. "I'm proud of the woman you've become." Henry's music career had blossomed, and he now balanced his time between performing and mentoring young artists. His relationship with Olivia had grown into one of mutual respect and genuine affection. Their late-night conversations were filled with laughter, teasing, and a deep understanding of the paths they had each traveled. Lillian, too, had found new purpose. She became a prominent advocate for mental health awareness, often crediting Olivia's courage as her inspiration to step into a role beyond the societal expectations of a Montgomery matriarch. As for Daniel, he remained by Olivia's side. Their relationship had grown strong, built on shared values and mutual respect. They had kept their lives intentionally simple, finding joy in quiet evenings at home or trips to places that inspired their creativity. A final reflection one evening, as Olivia sat on the balcony of her penthouse, overlooking the glittering skyline, she allowed herself a moment of stillness. Her life was full, not perfect, but full in the ways that mattered. She thought about the girl she had once been, brash, entitled, and desperate to prove herself to a world she barely understood. That girl had been a part of her journey, a necessary chapter in the story of her transformation. But now, Olivia was someone different, someone stronger, someone who had built her life on more than just wealth and appearances. She had created a legacy that blended ambition with compassion, privilege with responsibility. As the wind whispered through the city, Olivia smiled to herself.